Hello there. So today you're going to be asked to explore your last family of functions. Let's go back. So on Tuesday, I asked you to look at linear relationships. So that is the first family of functions that I wanted you to look at because it's actually going to be the first one that we're studying. Just as a reminder, the learning target for this week is to be able to identify that families of functions all have some of the same characteristics. So hopefully when you got done looking at the linear relationships, well, it was a reminder of graphing. Remember that this horizontal axis, that's your x-axis. The vertical one is your y. This point right here, that's 0, 0, that's your origin. Hopefully some of the characteristics you noticed when you looked at linear relationships was they're all straight, right? And in linear relationships, another thing that we're really going to talk about is slope, which is the steepness. So if you look at this green line, it's less steep than the red line. So when we talk about linear relationships, we talk about steepness. We also talk about direction. So this line is decreasing. So when we start talking about graphs and characteristics, first thing we talk about is what do they look like? These are straight, they're linear, straight lines. We often talk about directions. All lines have a direction. All graphs have a direction. That's determined by its growth. This one's a decreasing one, that's an increasing. This is increasing at a faster rate, the red one is, versus the green one. And we also probably, we talk in almost every relationship about x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So if you look at the green line, it's actually proportional because its x and y-intercept are 0, 0, and it's straight. If you look at the blue and the red line, their y-intercepts are 3. Y-intercepts are really important in our linear relationships because they're in our equations. X-intercepts are where they cross the x-axis. So when we talk about linear relationships and we're describing them, those are some of the things the characteristics we would think about. Going to parabolas today, if you notice, they're not straight. So first off, when you describe them, I'm looking at they're U-shaped. Either they're upward facing or like this blue one, they're downward facing. All parabolas are that way. They have symmetry. If you notice, if I went right through the middle, this half would look exactly like that half. So all parabolas have symmetry, and all of them are like that, right? All of them, if you noticed, had a y-intercept. So every one of them crossed the y-axis. And when we get to x-intercepts, that's a little different. If you look at this one right here, it crosses the x-axis in 2 places. This red one crosses it in 1 place. The green one crosses it not at all. So depending on the parabola, it might cross the x-axis, it might not. All of them have a vertex. This downward facing one has a vertex, that's the maxima. These upward facing ones, that's the minimum of them. So they all have a vertex. It depends on the equation which way they're going to face. So again, those are characteristics you would think about when you're describing a parabola. The relationships that you're going to look at today are exponential. And I want you to be thinking about when you're graphing those equations, what do they all have in common? Okay. I noticed that nobody put anything on the list. I had an extra resource list of questions. So I think that's my bad. I'm going to type up a list of questions that will be attached. And then on Friday, when I ask you to describe an equation or describe a graph, I'm hoping that you'll answer some of those questions. Okay. All right.